What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Flex podcast from the Action Network and Fantasy Labs. I am your host, Chris Raybon. It's NFL Week 4. As always, I'm joined by one of the most accurate rankers in the game, the odds maker, Sean Koerner. Sean, 3 weeks of data in the books. How you feeling heading into Week 4?
Good. Yeah, you're right about Week 3 just being kind of chaotic when it comes to projections and knowing what to trust. But I think Week 4 is the sweet spot. I think having 3 weeks of data is nice to have, and I think people are still going to be over or underreacting on some of the guys. But more importantly, happy Jackson Dart Day. We were talking about this last night. We were trying to figure out when it might happen, but it's official now. So as a Giants fan, hopefully you're excited about this. I am, but glad they made the switch finally.
Yeah, that was one thing I feel like I had a pretty good read on with the Giants. Like even last week, I remember I sent you a text showing you that I ended up betting the Russell Wilson fade parlay, like under yards and completions.
Yeah, it was a week earlier on that. Yep.
Yeah, I knew you were a week earlier. And I figured that was going to happen. So I'm excited. I think we'll talk about Dart as we started off with our quarterbacks here on the waiver pod, and then we'll get into top ads at running back, wide receiver, tight end, kicker, defense. So I'll get to that in one moment. But quick reminder, all of our fantasy football content is available right now. FantasyLabs.com. Fantasy Labs NFL includes in-season rankings, waiver wire tips, and more. We've also added a survivor pool tool to help you make informed picks. So make sure to use code FLEX20 for $20 off at FantasyLabs.com/Flex. All right, Sean, you already mentioned it. Quarterback, start us off. Talk to me. Are you targeting Jackson Dart with your number one as your number one quarterback priority this week?
Yeah, I am. I think, the time has finally come. I've watched the NFL for 3 decades now, and I say this with Jackson Dart. Hey, Russell Wilson, we're good, bro. You can go back to making Subway commercials. You could stick around, as a league average quarterback, but you can go. We're good here in New York. Some of you might get that joke, but if not, add Jackson Dart where you can. I was already saying he was a great stash to have in deeper leagues because if and when he does start, I think he does offer low end QB1 potential. He just reminds me of sort of an early career Josh Allen, where he's going to be pretty raw as a passer, but he does have a solid rushing floor. I think we could be projecting him for 5, 6, maybe 7 rush attempts a game. I think he's going to probably tap into that more early on. And he's paired with one of the best wide receivers in the game already, in Malik Neighbors, who I think is also excited to see the QB change finally happen. But I thought Dart might need some time to adjust in the NFL, and he still might, but based on his preseason, I think he looked a lot better than I was expecting. But yeah, I think, having a guy like Malik Neighbors to throw to, and even a security blanket like Wan'Dale Robinson, it's a decent situation for him to be in. I don't know what's up with Andrew Thomas, though. Did he get hurt, or was he on a snap count? But hopefully he's healthy and ready to go. He kind of needs him healthy. But yeah, I think Dart is a potential low end QB1 in certain spots. This week it's a tougher matchup against the Chargers, so he's my QB 18. But again, he's a guy that I think is an excellent long term add in deeper leagues.
Yeah, Andrew Thomas is a figment of our imaginations at this point. He's like Jair Alexander at the Packers last year. It's just he might practice, he might play, he might be elite, but he's not actually out there. He's just
sometimes he is. Sometimes he is.
But nah, man, I've been waiting for this, and tough matchup against the Chargers, like you said, but a spot where they're gonna probably sit back and try to goad them into mistakes on early downs. That's been what they've done. They're not a heavy blitz team on early downs, so they should be able to scheme stuff up, and maybe they need to stop using Wan'Dale Robinson on a 20-yard A-dot, or maybe with Dart that works a little better, but. Yeah. I do think they can kind of help him out, and he'll be a factor in the run game. It's kind of a step down at quarterback, but after Dart, just in terms of the excitement. But I'll go Geno Smith. Looking at him just because, he's kind of been up and down a little bit this year, but if Trey Tucker's coming on like he is as that, another option in this passing game, they already have, Myers, Bowers underneath, some rookies behind them at the wide receiver spot as well. Genti still really hasn't gotten it fully going, and that might just be an issue with the offensive line. So they may have to continue throwing. This could end up being a little bit of a shootout here. It's indoors with another Caleb Williams indoor game. Could be a similar script to that Dallas game, which I don't know how that hit the luck under, but shouts to our guy Nick Giffen on that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, Gino's available in about 7 out of every 10 leagues, and I just think playing indoors, probably has had some bad luck and some interceptions and whatnot, but this could be another one where it's a little bit back and forth. So I expect him to have to air it out, and that Chicago defense is just decimated on the back end, and that's why you saw them. I mean, that Dallas game could have been a lot worse if Dak doesn't throw those and Middleton don't throw those picks late in the game. So Gino for me at quarterback. But yeah, Dart is definitely that priority as a long-term ad. Let's go to running back. Speaking of long-term ads, I know a guy we both kind of talked about was Trey Benson, and lo and behold.
Yeah, he's still available in 48% of leagues. But if I had to guess, he's going to be highly sought out this week. You're probably going to need to spend, I don't know, your entire fab to get him. He's going to require a hefty bid. That's why I think last week I was saying he should have been rostered in most formats, because he's just a James Conner injury away from offering, low end RB1 value. And sure enough, it was unfortunate, but Conner's going to be out for the rest of the season. So it's next man up for Trey Benson. And I have him as a low end RB1 this week, despite, a tougher matchup here against the Seahawks. But it's similar to Jordan Mason, like we saw last week with Aaron Jones out. There's really nobody that's going to be, commanding touches the way Benson was behind Conner. So Benson's going to see a bigger workload than even James Conner was seeing. So he has a very high floor right now. DeMarcado, Bam Knight might mix in here and there. But Benson's going to be more of a true workhorse back, and he's looked a lot better this year as well. So I'm high on his talent as well. So again, this is a rest of season value kind of situations, and we're heading into week 4. So if there's ever a time to kind of unload your budget, it would be now on a guy like Benson if he's somehow available in your league. Everybody else is going to be trying to bid for him too. So in order to outbid them, you got to go big or go home here. And that's why, once again, I'm going to stress this other guy, Blake Corum, still available in 82% of leagues. Similar spot as Benson this time last week. Same spot as Benson. He is one Kyren Williams injury away of becoming an RB1. Does that mean Kyron's going to miss any time this year? Of course not. But most backs do miss 2 to 3 games. Now that we're 3 games in, we could probably say, he's more likely to miss 1 to 2 if I had to set like his median. But Kyren has proven to be durable. He hasn't missed a game yet the past couple of years, aside from, the week 18 rest starters game.
Nah, he missed some games. Kyren
last year?
Both years. He only played 12 games, right?
Kyren?
His first 2 years, he only played 12 games, I believe.
Oh, wasn't he like healthy scratches and stuff? He wasn't like Kyren Williams right now.
The first year he blew up, I think it was 23, right? He definitely missed 4 games. I know that. I'm looking at it right now. I know he missed 4 as a starter. Let's go.
Oh,
yeah. He missed 4 in 2023, and that's why we were worried about him heading into last season. But then he played every game except the finale last weekend. Corum got hurt in the finale.
That is my entire point. Ever since Blake Corum has existed as a Rams running back, we have yet to see him have a chance to step up. So everyone thought, Blake Corum was a bust last year. The problem is he wasn't able to push, like a timeshare with Kyren. But, last week had another solid game. 8 rushes for 53 yards. So at this point, he could potentially offer, RB3 flex value once we get to these heavy bye weeks coming up in the next few weeks. So even more important to add him now. But again, if Kyren ever misses time, he's going to offer low-end RB1 value. And those are the kind of backs that I like to have sitting on my bench, like Trey Benson last week. You got to get ahead of that before, the upside hit. So Blake Corum, once again, available in 82% of leagues. I still think that's absolutely ridiculous. So if you have the roster space, you're in a deep enough league, definitely add him to your bench for now. And in some spots, you might be able to use him even when Kyron's healthy, which we weren't even able to say last year.
Yeah, Sean McVay did say that he wants a 70-30 or 65-35 split. And I did notice that because he said, hey, there are certain things we want Kyron in there for. But when I looked at Corum's usage, a lot of his usage has come on the opponent's side of the field and close to the goal line, red zone type of situation. So I think he was more talking about third downs and maybe 2-minute pass protection stuff with Kyron a little bit more, which could, like to your point, that could bump up Corum's value even a little more than just the average back getting, 30% of the carries or whatever it is. So definitely got to add. I would say, same thing. Tyler Allgeier's still sitting there, 62%. Just because the Falcons got shut out by the Panthers, I mean, maybe that is a reason to not have their second running back. But you're going to see when they're in positive game script, he's getting 10 carries plus, and could have one of those kind of like Montgomery games last night where there could be a lot of games where they look like maybe they're being a bad game script, but it's the Falcons. You never know what the hell is going to happen with the Atlanta Falcons. So just another example of that. But another guy I want to mention that I think could actually kind of jump into that lead spot, or the guy in front of him could get very likely to get hurt, benched, they just struggle, and that's Woody Marks for the Houston Texans, rookie whose usage has just continued to increase. And last week, him and Chubb essentially played the same amount of snaps, and now you got a home favorite spot against the Titans. You're favored by 7. So a lot of different ways that Marks could come into value here. There could be it could be a blowout. It's the Titans. So, he could get in late and kind of finish the game off, but he could also kind of continue to trend upward and see more of a kind of 50-50 split against what's been a shaky defense so far. So, and he's the guy that you're going to trust more in the pass game, which is for a rookie, that's not necessarily always the case. And so that kind of increases his value a little more because he's still, getting some of those, to like Corum, like those carries in the opponent side of the field, closer to the red zone and whatnot. So he's still going to have scoring opportunities. Could always break a big one. And Houston offense is stuck in neutral, so I wouldn't be surprised if they continue to work him into the game plan more. It seems like that's going to have to happen over the younger wide receivers who are just, kind of in that 30 to 40% stat range, Noel and Higgins. So, I think Marks, he's available in 9 out of every 10 leagues. That's a guy you definitely want to get ahead of as well.
Yeah, he's a great short-term and long-term option. Probably still under the radar. Like, I don't think he would require that big of a bid. I think everybody's going to be all in on Benson this week. So I think Woody Marks, if you can't get Benson, is definitely the other guy to seek out this week. And I'm going to be talking about him on the projections pod. I'm high on him for week 4. But yeah, when it comes to Tyler Allgeier, another like Trey Benson, Blake Corum type, he shouldn't be available in so many leagues. He's essentially David Montgomery South, right? I mean, he's going to be able to offer, RB3 flex value if we think the Falcons are going to be in a leading game script. And again, we have yet to see Allgeier or Bijan miss any time since both have been on the Falcons. So we've seen neither back has really seen their true ceiling in terms of potential workload. And I don't know, but I think I'd have Allgeier as a low end RB1, high end RB2 if Bijan ever missed time. So yeah, he's definitely one of the top handcuffs to have on your bench right now.
Yeah, because right now, I think he's got to be the running back that gets the worst plays called for him in the league. Like, every time he gets the ball, it's like an obvious running situation.
They know.
It's like a 10-man box. Or I saw a play against Carolina where they threw him like a screen pass, and it was like the entire defense just knew it was coming. They might have thought he was Bijan or something. They didn't even realize, but it just collapsed on him for like an 8-yard loss or something ridiculous like that. I mean, this guy just doesn't get the good end of the stick at all in that.
That's kind of like Charbonnet. Charbonnet is kind of in that role. When Walker was healthy last year, like Charbonnet would be in there and like, okay, they're obviously running it here and just stuff them. But do you think having Zach Robinson Caulfield's on the play is going to help at all, or is that not moving the needle in your projections? I'm only half kidding. but
Yeah,
they think that'll fix everything. Instead of being in the booth, he'll be on the field this week. So we'll see if that fixes anything.
uh, Kareem Hunt, if Pacheco ever got hurt, I wonder if Kareem Hunt would just go back to the Kareem Hunt of last year. I feel like he kind of would. So that's another guy available in 2/3 of leagues because Pacheco, if he couldn't do it against the Giants, I don't know if that's going to work out. All right, wide receiver.
What about the? Because I've been getting asked this too. Just
real Rodriguez, quick, baby.
Yeah, right. Like Rodriguez, and then McNichols was kind of a flash in the pan. He had that amazing run, but he is not somebody to spend any fab on. Correct?
Yeah, I don't think so. So he's continuously been the third back, regardless of the other rotations. Yeah. It's kind of been like that with him and B-Rob and Eckler, and then it was like that too. It's just that he broke off a 60-yard touchdown run, so 78 yards. We led the team. Looks good on the stat sheet, but he's not. If he doesn't do that every week, he's usually going to get. He'll get a driver. He'll get like a drive or two, or he'll get 2-minute drill snaps. So like he'll be involved in the game plan, but he does have a special teams role. So that's more of that's the reason why Rodriguez was inactive. So there's certain backs. That's why when they go from healthy scratch to active, they can just jump everybody in the pecking order. And Rodriguez and Bill are kind of the same. They're in that same role. And then McNichols, it's not going to be the full Eckler role. It's just kind of a little juiced up version of what he was already doing, some specific spots. So I think Rodriguez is the guy to add. I still think Bill is like long-term. That's the reason they traded B-Rob. So not every game they'll be able to get, all their backs, that many yards or even carries, especially with the quarterbacks usually running. So it's not always going to look as good as that for McNichols, but Rodriguez definitely could be a factor in certain spots. And not a bad guy to have on the end of your bench just in case. Because if something happens to Krosky Merritt, then Rodriguez could become, like a 15 to 18 carry guy. So
for sure.
That would be valuable. All right, wide receiver is always tough week over week, but you and I were just talking about really a couple of guys. We were talking about Burden because we kind of laddered him and did some things, and I think you were on his first touchdown or something, anytime touchdowns, and and
he scored the second touchdown.
Right, and then so I know you like him, but also we always talk about Trey Tucker with our guy Nick Giffen, and I think was it Nick almost talked himself into Thornton last week? I hope he got back on Tucker at least somewhere because my goodness. So are these two guys you're kind of the top guys you're looking at, and who do you kind of have? Who do you give the edge to in terms of this week?
Yeah, so I think it's just important to kind of be careful with these guys and think about short-term versus long-term value, and certainly want your thoughts on both these guys. But Trey Tucker, available in 96% of leagues, led everybody in week 3 scoring with this massive 3-touchdown game, 8 catches for 145 yards. So everybody knows who Trey Tucker is now. Everyone's going to be trying to add him. I wouldn't go overboard because he's going to be pretty volatile week to week, and he's still more of a wide receiver 4 option. Now, having said that, he's my wide receiver 40 this week, so I think he is a good short-term add, and he offers a massive ceiling. But he still has to compete with Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers for targets as long as they're healthy. And then rookie Deontay Thornton is in a similar role. So, next week it'd be Thornton is the one, having the big game. So you just got to be careful, Tucker. I wouldn't go overboard with my fab budget on him at all. I would put in a small bid and hope to land him if I need a short-term option or I want some upside. But he's still, again, he's wide receiver 40 for me this week and just going to be very volatile week to week. So you just have to know that going into bidding for Trey Tucker this week. On the other hand, Luther Burden, available in 89% of leagues, had that massive 3-catch, 101-yard game and a touchdown. It's unfortunate that he had to have that game when, nobody was playing him. I mean, we were flirting with alt markets on his props, but probably can't trust him quite yet in our fancy lineups. I have him wide receiver 60 right now. Love his upside, but it's still going to be hard to command that kind of volume in his limited playing time with everyone still healthy. I consider him DJ Moore's backup, my comp for him was basically DJ Moore. So I think if DJ Moore were to miss time, then he has wide receiver 3+ upside. But I think he's definitely worth a stash in deeper leagues, and he has big play potential. But I don't think you can trust him this week at all. So he's wide receiver 60 for me. But how are you kind of projecting both these guys this week and kind of long term though?
Yeah, I think Tucker has a shot at being a low end wide receiver 3. I'm definitely high on him. I think he is. Let's see, wide receiver. Yeah, he's my wide receiver 35 this week. So, yeah, I like Trey Tucker a lot, and the reason is because he's playing every snap. And the one thing about having competing with targets with guys is that with the Raiders, yeah, it looks like, okay, you got Thornton. He's also starting and kind of always in the mix for cardio king, but also a long touchdown, kind of like an out Pierce kind of guy. But then there's also Best. But the one thing about that we have to remember, what did the Raiders do about a week before the season started? They tried to kick the tires on Amari Cooper, who would have played at 50 to 70% of the snaps on passing plays. So the fact that they were willing to kind of bench their rookies for him to put him ahead, that kind of shows us that those guys probably aren't going to jump Tucker. So I think Tucker's role is probably a little bit more secure than we're giving him credit for. And the fact that he showed 3 touchdown upside, and everything's new. So I think we kind of have to be cautiously optimistic with him. Burden is he's a little more of a wild card. Like, we love the talent, but we've seen this Bears offense. We know they have multiple options at different spots. So yeah, I think it's going to be kind of touch and go with him. Kind of a little similar to that Denver situation or the Packers when they have everybody healthy, which is never. But it's just like some weeks it'll be great. Some weeks he might play 30% of the snaps. We just don't know. Mm-hmm. But it was a flea flicker touchdown that, like, Trey Tucker scored 3 touchdowns in the span of one game. That was like a normal just trailing game script for them, but nothing out of the ordinary. Whereas, Burden gets and he had to be kind of like singled out by reporters. And then Ben Johnson had to say, I want to work him into the thing. And then they had to play the terrible Dallas defense. And then there had to be a flea flicker. Like, so many things had to go right for Burden to get that one touchdown. And Trey Tucker's out here getting 3. And he had another one, in week 1, right? So, I think Tucker it's kind of like Quentin Johnston, where as the data, continues to improve and the snaps are there, like, what are his odds of not playing, like, of coming off the field on a passing down next week? Like, very small, I think, after 3 weeks. Yeah. So yeah, I think Tucker, I wouldn't spend on him because, like you said, I don't think you're competing with a ton of people, but definitely worth it, I think, to get him on your team if you need a wide receiver. One other guy I'll mention is Romeo Doubs, available in about 6 out of every 10 leagues. Going against Dallas here, just remember this. The Cleveland Browns are an elite defense. Probably one of the only other defenses that was as good as the Packers coming into the week. So, looking at this team going forward, it's going to be Golden. Yeah, Wicks and Watson will probably eventually come back, and Reed will come back. But for the time being, and even going forward, Dobbs is probably still going to be that top route runner or top 2 route runner for them, even when those guys do come back. So Jordan Love playing really well. I wouldn't put any stock into that Browns game. Now you have the Cowboys defense, that's a whole different story. You're going indoors. Dobbs had his best career game, if I recall, against the Cowboys, because I was on his under long reception. I think it was the only time he ever got a 100-yard game, if I'm not mistaken. We
were at the live event. We
were out there in Jersey.
Oh, yeah, he went off.
Shouts to Jersey, but and shouts to everybody that came through that day. But yes, Romeo Doubs, good spot for him here. Dallas is just decimated in the secondary, and it's not every week that you're going to see what played out for Jordan Love and the Packers last week. That was an outlier kind of game script, an outlier defense. Just the outlier, the entire situation, I think, was kind of odd. But the non-outlier is that Dobbs is going to be on the field. So kind of like Tucker, where it's just the fewer snaps that are coming off the field, especially when there's all this chaos behind them, it kind of shows where they're at in the offense. So Dobbs, another guy you can add, and should be a good bet this week. The Packers could put up 5 total offensive touchdowns, perhaps. And
where do you have him ranked though this week? Because I think he's I think everybody is gonna try to bid for Tucker after last week. And Dobbs has a similar profile, and you could probably get for free. So, do you have him inside your top 40, or is he just outside of it? Like I have him
just
ranked
inside.
similar, just inside. Yeah, because like, I put in a small bid for Tucker, obviously, but just also put in like an even smaller bid for Dobbs. So if you don't get Tucker, you get Dobbs. Almost the same profile for kind of this week and going forward. So I would kind of recommend that. I think there is going to be one person in every league that kind of overbids on Tucker, if I had to guess. But I don't see anybody bidding on Dobbs this week. So that's kind of my plan in leagues where I do need like a short-term kind of upside option at wide receiver.
Yeah, it just depends where you're at, because I think the Raiders do have a kind of sizable fan base in certain parts of the country, so there might be some Tucker leagues, there might be some Dobbs leagues. I think it could vary, but yeah, one of these guys should be good. Should be good to go in your league if you just take the percentages that they are available, and the odds of at least one being available are pretty high. All right, tight end always seems to be kind of just a dart throw here, but we are starting to get some data in. Where are you reading for your top waiver priority this week at the tight end position?
Yeah, it's kind of rough this week, but I'm going to go with Jonnu Smith, available in 67% of leagues, facing the Vikings here. Still in a timeshare with Pat Freiermuth, but he did see a huge increase in routes run this week. He had an 84% rate, which is very good, obviously. And this is kind of at the expense of all those like ancillary receivers they have outside of Metcalf and Austin the Third.
What receivers?
Guys like which one?
Oh, what receivers?
Yeah, well, let me tell you who they are: Roman Wilson, Scotty Miller, and our guy Ben Skoranek. Were kind of phased out this week at the expense of more 2-3 tight end sets. So that led to Jonnu getting more playing time, and I could see that definitely sticking. And this is a good matchup, against the Vikings, who play a ton of zone. That's usually where Jonnu thrives. So I think this is a good week for him as well. And we have to remember, he's kind of playing closer to his floor right now because Pat Freiermuth is still there. So if Pat were to miss time, I think Jonnu would be easily a top 10 option. And we have to remember, he was the tight end 5 overall last year. He has plenty of upside if he's given the chance. So I think he's a sneaky add this week as kind of a short-term and long-term option. But yeah, he opens the week as my tight end 13.
Yeah, he's the slot receiver. That's how you kind of have to look at it. Like I almost think like that. What did he play? Like 80%, around 80%,
84%.
Right.
Yeah.
That's kind of most weeks will be around that range as the slot. Like that's maybe he'll be around 70% as I would say the true median, but like a normal slot receiver in the league. That's just what you got to kind of think of him as. And then Freiermuth, a lot of his snaps would probably just go to Washington, to be honest. So I actually think Jonnu is kind of where he's at, but that's a good spot to be because he's just a slot receiver. And it's not every week that Metcalf and Austin are going to catch touchdowns. Although who knows if Rodgers is going to make it through the season at this point. But yeah, I think Jonnu's a nice buy low who will kind of get will be a little more consistent than maybe people think here. I'll mention Fannin is still available. The rookie is still available in 54% of leagues at Detroit. Remember, last week was an outlier. Cleveland is not going to be within 10 points the entire game of everybody. They could be. Their defense is very good, but going on the road to Detroit, who looked very formidable last on Sunday night Monday night against a very good Baltimore Ravens team. I think you're going to see a lot of passes for the Browns, as we always do. And the fact that their defense has been so good, I think that just increases the likelihood that Flacco continues to start at quarterback, which I think is good news for everybody because it's just, passes and sacks, baby. Which necessitates more passing. So I think Fannin Jr. had a bit of a down game. That just is what it is at tight end, especially if you're dealing with guys in this range, but still a ton of upside for him. And we're still hearing those trade rumors with Njoku. So Fannin could also be kind of a second half of the year league winner type of a guy at tight end as well. So you should definitely be rostering him startable this week in what could be a big trailing game script. Brent Strange still available in about 3/4 of leagues. Another guy should not be available. Seeing a ton of routes on an offense that's left some meat on the bone, especially at receiver. So I think they could start targeting him even more. Still underperforming base versus expectation in the red zone and in the touchdown department because Hunter Long stole a red zone target and touchdown. I think Strange leads the team in red zone routes, but doesn't actually have a target yet. So that'll kind of shift as the year progresses. And I think he's another guy. And then Colston Loveland looks like he's going to be healthy. Looks like it was just kind of a scare. He's not going to be a long-term issue. So if he's still available, I would add him now too, because I think we talked about Burden and him being inconsistent. It seemed like Colston Loveland was actually a bigger priority in terms of getting him more. He's already been getting many more snaps than Burden. He's already been up there, above 50% in terms of the routes run. So it's only a matter of time before if he's healthy, he kind of works his way ahead of Cole Kmet. Another guy could be a second half league winner. We saw the 30+ yard catch against Dallas, and then he went out. So Fannin, Loveland, and Brent Strange, three kind of up and coming guys that haven't I don't think hit their ceilings just
right.
yet.
What do you think the chances of Njoku getting traded are if you had to set odds on it?
That's always tough because there's just not a big sample to go off. So I'd say, man, I don't know, maybe like 25%, 25 to 33%.
Yeah,
what do you think?
You like their team total right now is 6 wins. Not like tank worthy. Like they have some easy games coming up. I think they'd have to like really lose 3 of the next 4 games for that to be even more likely, right? Like I think their defense is so good.
Right on schedule.
Well, yeah. Well, if they win a couple of games here, it might delay the inevitable. But what do they have to gain for just keeping Njoku the rest of the season? Not much, right? So it's I would say 25% is fair, and that's Harold Fannin Jr. becomes a league winner, 25% chance. So I think he's definitely worth. It might not be playing him right now, but stashing on your roster if you have the space for it, just in case.
He's still my tight end 14 after every. I think he was my tight end 15 last week, and so he actually moved up a spot this week, despite a bad game, which just kind of tells you what kind of outlier game script I think last week was compared to going forward. Because Tillman's probably going to be a cardio king type of guy a lot of weeks too. So and they're still not using like Fannon's their spot. He's a Johnny in their offense. So. Definitely want to be bullish on him and have him stashed, even if I'm not playing him. But defense, special teams, this one's tough just because too many people end up rostering like defenses. So, okay, sure. So it's tough to always find defenses that are truly like available in at least half of leagues. But obviously, check our rankings to see if there might be a better one, but kind of a weird week for defenses. Where are you going here?
No, it's a horrible week for defenses. We've had like the top ranked defense available in 90% of leagues now for the first 3 weeks. So, freaks like me that just stream defense all year had it nice the first 3 weeks. This week is tougher. I do like your defense better. I have ranked higher, but I can't root against Jackson Dart week 1, his first start. So I'm going to go with the Pats here, who are available in 85% of leagues. They face the Panthers. And, they're my number 10 ranked defense. So that's kind of how rough this week is. But I think this is a decent spot to take them and kind of fade Bryce Young here, who didn't really have to do much in their 30-0 win last week. This spot, the Pats are 6-point favorites at home. So, Bryce Young's probably going to have to drop back a lot more here. More potential for sacks and turnovers. Although, it'd be nice if Christian Gonzalez returns this week. I know he's still coming back from a hamstring injury. So if he's able to return, I'll like this a lot more. But, the Panthers have the 5th lowest team total. So just a lot of things that kind of help raise a defense's floor. But I don't love them as much as, we were taking teams, really good defenses playing the Saints the past few weeks. But I like this spot as kind of a high floor option. Like they'll probably get you 8 points. Maybe we get lucky with, a Henderson return touchdown or a pick 6 or something like that. But I think for a floor, I think this defense is a solid streaming option this week.
Yeah, crazy week for defense, special teams last week with just all the field goal blocks and returns for touchdowns. It's crazy week, but I got to go with the Chargers here. Still available in exactly 50% of Yahoo week, so it'll vary depending on your league. You should be able to find the New England Patriots if you can't find the Chargers. But yes, love Jackson Dart. However, love this Charger defense and just how well schemed it is. That's why you continuously kind of see them overperform expectations. You know, guys get hurt and you know, they don't look like they have a ton of pass rush. That's because they sit back on early downs and kind of goad you into mistakes and then dial up these exotic pressures on third down. So it's still a tough spot for a rookie quarterback here. And, you know, one of their backs, Tyrone Tracy, just got hurt. So I think it's going to be, you know, Dart's going to have to run the ball. The ball's going to be in his hands enough for him to make some mistakes here. But when he, you know, he can also, I think they'll have more confidence in him to drop back and make some throws and, you know, kind of do things like that. So if he does turn it over and the charge, you know, this game kind of gets away a little bit, like it could turn to one of those great games for everybody involved. So I wouldn't hesitate to use him at all, and wouldn't hesitate to use the Chargers at all in this fight, even though we're long-term bullish on Dart.
Yeah, I think they're an excellent play this week. Again, my top 5 defense, but I don't know if Dart's going to be taking as many sacks. He had an 11% pressure to sack rate. Again, reminds me of Josh Allen, so he might be good at avoiding sacks, but it's his first game. So I think if there's ever a time to fade him with the defense, it'd be here.
Yeah, and if he's running instead of taking sacks, I mean, that just opens him up to getting hit more on, you know, like scrambles and things like that in the middle of the field. So either way, I think, you know, rookie quarterbacks, yeah, good bets for turnovers, and turnovers are kind of down league wide. It's just kind of the product of the, you know, increased field position over the last couple of years and the kicking ranges. And so teams are throwing in the too high shells, just not as many turnovers. So the guys that are likely to commit, you know, at least one, and if not more than one, are starting to become more and more valuable because drives per game are going down and whatnot. So yeah, if you can kind of find that, it can be extremely valuable. And I think Dart is a good candidate to have at least one as our most backups or rookies and guys like that. So kicker, that's you just did defense. Kicker, we'll close it out with kicker here. I know you got the new kicking model going on. Who do you like? Who's your top priority add if you need one for week number 4?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Matt Prater, who seems to be my number 1 kicker every week now. But this week especially because the Bills are massive favorites going up against the Saints that dropped or allowed, 44 points to the Seahawks. So I think, you know, the Bills are constantly going to be crossing midfield, constantly going to be providing Prater with maybe mostly extra point attempts, but, you know, maybe a few field goals once they get up big. So I think Prater is the highest floor option and oftentimes the highest ceiling if you know, a team's going to be crossing midfield that much. So going to stick with Prater here, still available in 64% of leagues.
How high do you have him number 1, right?
Number 1.
How many points in front of him of the number 2 kicker is he for you?
0.5. And Jake Bates is the number 2, which I mean is bizarre, but yeah, just I like as long as, you know, he's kicking for the Bills, he's probably going to be number 1 just based on my new model. So where do you have him? Is he not your number 1? Yeah, no,
he's number 1. Oh, 1.6. I had him of kicker number 2.
That has to be the biggest gap ever, right?
I that's why I asked. I'm looking at it like, holy smokes. And you know, and the reason is because, yes, number 1, you have the, you know, obviously an extremely high team total, probably the highest of the year, right? Thus far. And
oh yeah, for sure.
Number 2, he's probably a little bit, you know, versus expectation, you expect him to have scored a little bit more because he missed a 30-something yarder, I believe, field goal under 40 last week against the Dolphins. So, which, I mean, it's not great in the, you know, grand scheme of things, but that's what we want. We want from Prater, just a high floor and then a bunch of easy kicks because Buffalo is just, you know, trying to maintain their lead here. So we don't need him to kick like 60 yarders. He can still kick, you know, 50, you know, low to mid 50s, but he should get a bunch of chip shots as well and should make those most weeks. So yeah, he's my kicker number 1 and 1.6 ahead of my number 2, who is available in 86% of leagues. So still a great year for streaming kicker. And that's Brandon McManus at Dallas. I always love these kind of matchups. Packers are a clearly superior team, just coming off a game where they did not look good, and now they get to play indoors. And because they're on the road and away, the better team, it's kind of like they might get stopped a little more than they would at home, where they would probably, just go up and down the field on Dallas and kick nothing but extra points. So, but now here you might get some weirdness with the refs, or who knows. So, kind of like a perfect matchup with a high floor, high ceiling for McManus and this Green Bay offense. I expect to get back to it. So, like McManus, in this spot as well. But yeah, him and Prater are number 1 and 2, which Love just kind of tells you do not draft a kicker, especially before the last one.
Yeah, no kidding. Brandon Aubrey might be the exception, but Graham Gano probably won't play this week, right? I mean,
oh my God! Crazy. Like what? This is like the 3rd time a Giants kicker has gotten injured. Like what are they doing? And they have the international exception kicker. Where is he? Why are they always in this position? Okay. It drives me freaking nuts.
I'm praying you didn't see yet who they picked up to potentially replace him.
I know who they picked up. Old Hoku.
Yep. There you go. He's gonna be a Giant this week. So
Old Ho. Like we can't call him Young Way anymore. So like you call him Old Ho until he gets to above 69 on his field goal percent. He's Old Ho. Old Ho can't 69. All right. On that note, it's just fun being a Giants fan, man. That's going to do it for our NFL Week 4 waivers pod here on the Fantasy Flex. Be sure to subscribe to the Fantasy Flex podcast so you do not miss an episode all season long. We will be back with our player projections episode tomorrow, DFS on Thursday, and over on the Action Network podcast, we will have our touchdown show on Friday. Good week for that last week, so try to keep it going. So subscribe to that too, so you do not miss any of us anywhere. You can find Sean on X at @the_oddsmaker. I'm at Chris Raybon. We're at those same handles on the free award-winning Action Network app. Also, be sure to follow the Playbook account on Twitter. It can build you bet slips, props for props and all those kind of things just off screenshots. All right, until next time, let's get this money.